Picture this. It's been half a decade since the fantastic Super Mario 64. A game that was revolutionary and had people begging for more, wondering what the next title could be. At first, this next title started off as Super Mario 128, a basic sequel to the original, but after no news, it slowly started spiraling into rumours and out of control. The first ever episode actually covered this, so if you want to hear that tale in more detail, go check out that episode. But to sum it up, there resulted in being 3 different Super Mario 128s. The first version never got past the planning stages. The second was a tech demo which got its ideas moved into both Pikmin and Mario Galaxy. And finally, the third got scrapped after some development time. Instead, Mario's second 3D adventure would arrive as a different title altogether. It would arrive as
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
The basic premise for Sunshine was to take everything from 64 and make it better. The initial look for the game used a basic copy of its predecessor's engine, and Yoshiaki Koizuma was experimenting in which direction to take it. Now, Koizuma is a pretty cool guy and responsible for a lot of the beloved aspects of Nintendo games. He's the man behind the art and the backstory of A Link to the Past, meaning he created the 3 goddesses. He also pretty much wrote the plot for Link's Awakening as well, and even created a polygonal remake of Zelda 2 that's never seen the light of day. But wait, there's more! He was assistant director and animator on Mario 64, was the man behind Zelda's Z targeting, and designed Link in Ocarina, and was the one who created the 3-day moon going to hit the Earth scenario in Majora's Mask, alongside most of the more serious dark elements of the game. Since then, he's gone on to direct and produce a ton of Nintendo's big stuff, from Galaxy to Donkey Kong. But the first title he got to direct was none other than Mario Sunshine.
Hello!
So, how did they go from a basic Mario 64 sequel to giving the plumber a water jetpack? Well, it all comes down to the GameCube controller. Koizuma was playing around with the buttons for the first time, and was reminded of a water pistol's trigger when pressing the stiff giant triggers on the back. Pretty much instantly, he tried putting a water gun in Mario's hands, and then tried to figure out why Mario would ever need one. Racking his brain, he connected water pistols to how kids would have fun in the summer, and childhood fun in general. But what was Mario going to shoot water at? He couldn't go around attacking kids? Maybe enemies? Or even walls? Well, one of the Mario moves they were improving was the wall jump, so they wanted to make several large buildings for Mario to jump around. So why would Mario bring a water gun to a town? Maybe it was covered in mud and he had to clean it, just like how kids play in the mud, thus getting back to childhood play. And children play with water when it's nice and sunny. Where's the best place to get sun? A tropical island, of course. And thus, Koizuma managed to link a water gun to playing in the mud on a tropical island holiday. Knowing he had a good idea, he went to pitch it to Miyamoto, who gave it the go-ahead. At first, they considered the idea of being able to paint as well as wash away. They quickly decided it was best just to clean though, because while the GameCube could handle pre-play scoop, painting and keeping a world full of it exactly how you placed it was asking a little too much. So instead, all focus shifted towards Mario's water gun, and what it would look like. And at first, it was exactly that. A water gun. Now, understandably, this didn't go down too well. But it wasn't just the whole guns equals violence thing. It was also the fact that not everyone was okay with Mario using a tool at all. They questioned if it could still be a Mario game if he strayed from the tested formula by using a tool. Heck, some people even complained about Mario having short sleeves, claiming he wasn't Mario without his specific clothes. Eventually, they were convinced when people pointed out that Luigi had already used a tool in his ghost-busting adventures. So if it was alright for him, it must be okay for Mario. They agreed, providing the guy who designed the Poltergust also designed their new water tool. And there were quite a few different tools created, around 10 in total. The favourite by far was a water pump. Don't ask me how it would have worked because I have no idea. But once again, people complained that it was out of character for Mario, and instead at one point had a guy running around next to Mario pumping the water. Not only did this look incredibly odd and out of place, it clashed with the entire world that had been made. Seemingly unlike the wacky cartoon residents, this man was more realistic looking, and so he was cut out. Eventually, they settled on the third favourite, Flood,
Mario.
as he suited the gameplay much more. He was a little different at the time, he had a thinner look and a smaller nozzle. He isn't the only thing that looks different either. Mario Sunshine's enemies are a large departure from the series' traditions. Even the Koopa Troopers looked barely similar to their classic designs. This was due to most of the island's residents being made within the team. Meanwhile, Mario, Peach, and the Toads were designed by veteran designers. A running theme throughout development was a clash between a realistic and a cartoon world. The main reason a town was chosen was because people wanted to see Mario jump off a real building, so the original design of Isle Delfino reflected that. Koizumi sculpted the entire island out of clay, going into great detail, even sculpting the rows of houses. They chose places like port towns and cottage villages instead of the traditional Mario environments. Some of the younger developers even travelled to various tropical islands at their own expense to inspire the locations. And at this point the whole world was very different looking, perhaps Delfino Plaza most of all. And it was this design that appeared in the original trailer at Space World 2001. A rather infamous event due to the reveal of Wind Waker, which caused a bit of an uproar. But anyway, let's check out the Sunshine trailer.
It's me, Mario!
Yeah, not much resemblance to the final product, huh? Aside from the giant walking onion, there's a fair few other things we can spot here. For starters, there's the obvious main difference of the area. Delfino Plaza is a lot greyer, and more of a winding port town with lots of alleyways than a resort. It was also a lot bigger, being apparently 4 times the size of Mario 64's hub world. All Piantas at this point are blue, and not the only residents we see. Remember the guy who was going to follow Mario around with a pump? Well, at one point they tried adding in more human tourists to make him fit better. You can see a couple they hadn't taken out yet still here. They were quite quickly removed as well. Now we can see some enemies walking around the hub world, but I'd wager they were put there simply for the trailer. And as for Trampling Stew, oh right, yeah, this giant onion thing is called Stew. Based on his rather random trampling, I'd say he was added only for the trailer as well. He's actually, believe it or not, still in the game. You can find him by accessing a test level. His main body doesn't load, but he's still got his crazy walk. You gotta be quick though, he seems to like falling through the ground. Alternatively, for those of you who are more skilled at the whole hacking thing, you can put him directly into the game complete. We can see how friggin' creepy he actually is. He births strolling stews and gloopers right in front of you, and occasionally opens up the top of his head to reveal that he has a freakish third unblinking eye on top. He reacts to water hitting this third eye, and once you hit him enough, his head explodes, leaving his creepy body wandering around aimlessly. It's likely he was a boss, which would stop, open his head, and then you'd have to kill him. Kinda like a P.T. Piranha, if instead of vomiting, you witness live childbirth. He also has a mask hidden in the files, and of course, that's creepy too. Anyway, let's get back to that trailer. The one last thing of interest here is the heads-up display, and it's completely different. Very simple in design, they combined health and the water meter. Now we know that this now shows the amount of water left, but at the time no one could figure it out. You might notice that not once does Mario use Flood in the entire trailer. This was deliberate since Nintendo didn't want anyone to copy their ideas while the game was being made. But for those watching, they had no idea what Flood was, believing him to be some sort of backpack with a ray gun. The water meter was speculated to be some kind of thermometer, meaning you had to find shade if you stayed in the sun too long, or that the game used real-time weather and heat from your location. It wouldn't be till next E3 that people found out about FLUDD's true nature. Finally, we have the coin counter. Back then, Delfino used a different currency to the rest of the Mushroom world, the Soul Coins. You can see one very briefly in the trailer, and unlike the health restoring coins of Sunshine, these served a much greater purpose, actually travelling to each level. Deep within the files of Mario Sunshine reveals a secret of its past. Forget Luigi's Mansion, because Mario Sunshine is haunted by a ghost train. When Sunshine was going for the more realistic route, it seems the Delfino Express was going to replace the warps. Mario would buy a ticket to get to his destination, and then buy a travel stamp using his soul coins, which I'd guess were probably the missions. Perhaps the most interesting part of this are what those destinations were. Now you've got your usual places, Serena Beach, Noiki Bay, Pianta Park. How would the train get across the ocean? Never mind. Hey, apparently it seems you could even use it to quickly access secret levels. But you've got some other intriguing destinations as well. While not appearing in the final game, we put station locations for another hotel, called Hotel La Crime, translating to Hotel Tier. Etro Rock, meaning sleep or elevate rock, Lighthouse Island Harbour, Fire Shrine, and Battleship Island, which may be the origin of those cannons found throughout the game. Now from this point onwards, there was a definite shift in Mario Sunshine development. At one point during an interview, Miyamoto claimed he was worried that players might not have found what they saw very exciting, and decided to change the direction of the game to resemble Mario 64 a little more closely. After this point, things fall silent for a while. We know that this was an early Ricco Harbour, as its leftover texture is in the game, and it shows the original look of the bloopers and FLUDD's thin design. But other than that, we wouldn't get a good look at the game until it had changed a lot by E3 2002.
On a tropical island, far from the Mushroom Kingdom, among a people enchanted by sunshine, Mario has taken a break from the hopping, the bopping, and saving the princess to take a well-deserved vacation. Or so he thinks. But this fall, something is amok in paradise. Throw fireballs at him, laugh at his mustache, but do not mess with his vacation.
Super Mario Sunshine!
By the next time we saw the game, it was fairly identical to what we eventually got. Delfino Plaza, Gelato Beach, and Bianco Hills all looked pretty much the same, aside from a few differences. The main thing to note is, of course, the different heads-up display. This design was seen in a ton of marketing for the game. Fun fact, young 8 or 9 year old me for the longest time was convinced there was two versions of Mario Sunshine because of this. Didn't help when I saw the American box art on eBay either, which only fueled my theory. The other thing to note in Delfino Plaza is that this normally orange pipe is green, has no pineapple inside even though we're at the start of the game, and no magic warp goop inside either. The harbour seems to be actually used as a harbour. This cannon is black, and this ice cream stall is here, which would have been used to access the springs at the back. The model for this is still in the game. Oh, and it seems at some point enemies could still be found wandering the streets. And at one point the cops guarded simply a blue coin instead of a secret level. For the most part, it was the actual level goals themselves that were still being made. The locations were all but complete. I'll give you a quick rundown of some of the changes. Bianco Hills had giant bouncing PT Piranha heads in it, similar to the ones in the final game, but were redesigned and only pop out of the goop generator. At this point, they just bounced all over the place and exited the cliffside cave. Gelato Beach is fairly close to the final product. The only thing I noted was the seeming lack of any telephone poles on the cliffs, a boat, these guys, and the goop-covered beach, which seems eerily similar to the manta ray mission in Serena Beach, right down to the texture, though it's not electrified. Speaking of Serena Beach, the hotel is way more infested with booze, we're sporting a slightly different model, and there's no magic portal in the totem either. The spa is also missing, and the overall creepy atmosphere is reduced by the brighter interior. Rico Harbour has perhaps the most changes of all. Most of it's there, aside from the helipad, which is currently just more scaffolding. Mario is surfing around on a plain white blooper and dodging lots of moving barriers, similar to the final game in the sewers. The biggest change is Glooper Blooper, who at this point is a very dark shade of blue instead of white, but he seems to play the same. Finally, we have the secret levels, which seem mostly identical apart from the background, which are some rather plain blocks rather than the funky looking artwork. Oh, and this guy. Not quite sure why he's here. But perhaps the biggest difference in this trailer is Yoshi. More specifically, Green Yoshi. You know all those pictures of him? People claiming to be able to unlock him? All stems from this era. Were my younger selves hours wasted trying to unlock this. Didn't help Nintendo release artwork of Mario riding a green Yoshi. Back then, Yoshi was default green. He didn't die when he ran out of fruits, only when he touched water. This meant while you couldn't vomit juice, you could still ride around him in his default look. Try filling him up with water instead, and he apparently spattered out. You had to feed him the fruit and then he'd change colour. At one point, developers teased that something was special about this Yoshi, but refused to tell. No idea what it was. From this point onwards, Super Mario Sunshine's story basically comes to an end. Aside from the gameplay missions being finalised, the game didn't have any other major changes, and it fully became the game we know now. The crazy thing though, is the trailer we just went through, which had a ton of differences from the final game, was released for E3 2002, which was in May, just 2 months before release. Now the gameplay at the event was definitely close to the final game, but the trailer can't have been that made that much earlier. So I guess it just goes to show how much Nintendo focuses on nailing down the gameplay just right before actually fleshing out the game. After all, a strong structure to build on normally indicates a long-lasting creation, which, in my eyes, Mario Sunshine definitely is. I enjoy revisiting this title every year because despite of its difficulty spikes and its camera issues, the gameplay and world were just so much fun, and I hope this video has gone to show how much work is put into making such a memorable experience. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this video, a like and a comment would be very much appreciated. These videos always take a lot of work, and knowing people enjoy them always spurs me on to do the next. If you want to see future episodes, please subscribe, and follow me on Twitter if you want to get some regular updates, the links are in the description. If you want to watch some of my other videos, feel free to click on these thumbnails, and until next time, see ya!